Are you? Yeah, welcome everyone to our meditation in our sacred online temple. And we will continue with stanza 22, like yesterday, which is the stanza about non-duality, mind itself, the nature of mind, pure consciousness, awareness itself, becoming aware of being aware, or being conscious about being conscious. And yesterday I shared with you how this is probably the very essence of all spiritual traditions, that the founders of the different traditions on this planet had an experience of mind itself, of consciousness, pure consciousness, and then tried to share that experience, developing methods, developing philosophies, explanations. And sometimes the experience itself gets lost. You know, we get into philosophies and explanations into the rational mind. Also, all the founders of the mystic traditions, they tell us, I'm trying to share something here which is beyond words, which is beyond concepts. So in Buddhism, it is often described as undescribable, ungraspable. So one of the important invitations here is to trust your intuition, to trust your heart, and let the rational mind, the conceptual mind, do what it does. But here we are trying to explore a different kind of knowing. And that kind of knowing initially, for many of us, just happens as glimpses, as moments of awe, as moments where you fall away. And when you fall away, the you which falls away is replaced with everything. So it's this moments which break into our life, even if we don't have a concept for it or an idea for it, moments where maybe some people would describe it as, I went to the beach or I went to the mountain and then I disappeared and there was only the mountain, there was only the forest, there was only the nature. So these moments of unity. And yesterday I talked about the practice of self-inquiry, inviting this experience of unity through questions which you can't answer. So these questions are meant to influence the beam of your attention. And before our first meditation, I would like to share some quotes from the commentary of Ken MacLeod. As maybe you remember, the first line of verse 22 is, whatever arises in experience is your mind. And in our first meditation, I want to explore that again, go back to that. Whatever you experience right now, whatever you experience is your mind. And Ken MacLeod continues, your mind is not a thing. It is not located anywhere. So that's a good pointer. We are not looking for a thing. it's maybe it would be better if the word mind would be a verb, yeah, instead of mind. Yeah? It's a process. Your mind is what you experience. What you experience is your mind. So as always with this, with the root text anyway, but also with a commentary of Ken MacLeod, it's really good whenever you read a sentence in the commentary to kind of pause and resonate with what is being said and bring it into your experience. What you experience is your mind. Wherever you are, as you read this, or in this case you hear this, look around, open to everything that you see. So some of you maybe you can look around, maybe if you just look at the computer screen and what you see there, maybe you also see parts of your body. Yeah, so that's also interesting that, yeah, there's, you see maybe your legs or part of your nose, or so that's what you see. Everything that you hear. Yeah, so that's the other. Yesterday I led a meditation where we took more time to explore the different sense channels, the sense doors. It's like, so what you see, what you hear, and touch. Yeah, so touch. So maybe you feel the sensation of the chair, which is a touch. Maybe you feel your hands resting on your body, that is touch. But also maybe you have a sense of the air around you. Yeah? Particularly if you are outside like Anne, yeah. But there's a temperature, there's some wind touching you. We have a sense actually of the air around us. And we broaden that kind of attentiveness also into our back. Yeah, so we feel into the background as well. We have a sense of what is behind you. Now, for some of you, it is a wall, and you have a sense of that. You have an experience of that. And then finally, because that's kind of a bit the most challenging, we also open to what we think and what we feel. So just open, choiceless awareness. And then you notice that your beam of attention is sometimes going to a particular aspect of your experience. And in this moment, I invite you to relax that and gravitate to an open, panoramic, choiceless awareness. Like as if you're sitting on a mountaintop or by the seashore, and you just open completely to the environment. So, and then Ken MacLeod continues and says, all those experiences, the seeing, the hearing, the feeling, the thinking, all that is your mind. All that is consciousness. All that is happening within awareness. And then another important pointer is following. It is a bit like a dream. It is a bit like a dream. Like the dreams we have at night. We create a whole world. We create feelings. We create a sense of an observer. And all of that is happening in the consciousness of the dreamer. All the appearances in a dream are made from the stuff your dreams are made of, which is consciousness, which is awareness. So this moment is a bit like a dream. We have appearances, and they are vivid, but the substance of that experience, what this experience is made of, is mind, is consciousness, is awareness. So recognizing that doesn't devalue your experience. It doesn't say it doesn't exist. It actually says how it exists. How does it exist? As an empty appearance within consciousness. And empty here means empty of a core, empty of solidness, empty of something you can put your hand on. It's empty, but it appears. So if you allow yourself to slip into perceiving this moment like this, what you might experience is that things become even more alive, but you lose that sense of solidness. Like a rainbow. A rainbow appears colorful and vivid, but it has no substance. A dream can be very impressive, but it has no substance. Rest there for a few moments. Yeah, so rest there for a few moments. And for a few moments, that's an important part of the sentence, because we are not looking for deepening something or holding on to something. It's really like this glimpses. Rest for a short moment. A little puzzled, perhaps a little in awe, he says. Maybe. It's like this awe which opens when you are in wonderment of the fact that you are aware. The wonderment of being aware. The wonderment of that there is something and not nothing. Colors, shapes, feelings, thoughts. And colors, shapes, feelings, and thoughts are not happening in a cold, empty space. They're happening within you. So you are here to witnessing. You are here with the capacity to witness this unique moment. This unique moment is experienced through you. With some myths in the Vedanta tradition, they say that's actually why we are born. To witness. To witness this moment. Not knowing what it is. Not knowing what the meaning is. So just the fact of being consciousness, of being conscious, of being aware, is such an amazing thing. And it's happening through you. So now comes the self-inquiry question. You remember this kind of question which are shaping the beam of our curiosity, the beam of our attention. A question which is like a koan. So it's not meant to be answered by the conceptual mind. And the question, the self-inquiry question, Ken McLeod uses here, and he uses it again and again in this text. What experiences all this? So what experiences all this? Again, do not try to figure this out. Do not start thinking about the question. Just ask the question and look. What experiences all this? Just look. And rest in the looking. It is a bit difficult at first. And stability and attention is very important here. But after a while, you become aware of a knowing. An awareness that has nothing to do with thinking. You become aware of a knowing. It is clear like water. Thoughts and feelings arise on their own. It is a bit like a mirror. You do not see the mirror itself, you just see the reflections in it. You don't see the mirror itself, but you see the reflections in it. Mind is like that. In the Dzogchen tradition, mind itself is being described as having 3 characteristics. And I just want to mention them. And again, in the Gelug tradition, they refuse to describe. Because as soon as we describe, we make it into something. So it's a bit tricky to put any words on it. So we have to take the words lightly. It's a bit of a signpost, what we are leaning into here. So the first characteristic, according to the teachings of Dzogchen, and I'm referring here to particular Tulkun Urgen Rinpoche and his sons. So the first characteristic, it is cognizant. There's a knowingness. If you wouldn't be here now, and there would be just an empty Zoom space, and I would say these words, they would go into a space. But that space, if you wouldn't be here, wouldn't know the words. There's no knowingness in that word. Whereas when I say these words now, right now, they are known. They are known by you. They are received by you. So there is in that space, through your presence, there is a cognizant capacity. So sometimes they say mind itself is like space. But we are talking about a cognizant space. So the second characteristic of mind itself is it's empty. It's empty of someone. It's empty of having any characteristics by itself. It's empty. We don't find it as something. It's not an object. It's empty of an observer. It's observing, noticing, it is aware, but there's nobody there. There's no core, no center. There's no one there doing that. It's empty. And the third characteristic, which is maybe even the most difficult to describe, because any word is too small. But Lama Yeshe, in his book, Introduction to Tantra, at one point, when he describes mind itself, what he says is, it's in the nature of love. It's in the nature of love. It's, for me, probably the most beautiful sentence in that book. Tara Brach, in her book on True Refuge, and she writes this book as a student of Tsukni Rinpoche, who is one of the sons of Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche. She calls this quality tenderness. It's a natural inborn tenderness. In some traditions, when people emerge from this experience, they, to put words on that, they would maybe use a word like divine presence. So I'm not saying that, and I'm not sure how for each of you an experience of that openness manifests, but it's a bit of a signpost. If you connect with some experience of your life, like I described before, like losing yourself in nature, or in making love, or in witnessing birth or death, probably you didn't came out of that experience like thinking that was horrible. I'm living in a predatory universe, which is after me. Probably not. Maybe there might be some reasons in your psychological history that a pattern of fear arises. We talked a little bit about yesterday. But quite often, those moments of unity, these moments where the illusion of separation relaxes, there is a sense of, I don't know, essence love, Tsoknyi Rinpoche calls it. It's an experience that we are living in a safe universe, even though our conceptual mind doesn't agree with it. It's a sense of a fundamental well-being, a fundamental well-being which is not dependent on how well your life is going. A recognition that everything is as it is and it can't be different. And in a strange way, it is perfect. There's no resistance, no struggle. So let's bring this introduction of Ken MacLeod into our meditation. And yesterday, I also, and I'm going to repeat it, the importance of creating a sacred space, a safe space, In the Tibetan tradition, the 6 preliminary practice or the preparation. So we will use some of those ingredients to create a space for ourselves where we can rest because we feel safe. So if you take a few moments to adjust your posture and sliding into your seat as a practitioner, as participating in this lineage with your Sangha. And if you like, you can close your eyes. If you keep your eyes open, your gaze is relaxed. And you allow the shift to happen from the head into the body, from doing to being, just naturally, almost effortlessly, you gravitate to present moment awareness. And at this point, for many people, it helps to have a bit of an anchor, something to bring to the foreground, like the breath or the sensation of your hands, or maybe something which just comes to the foreground, a sensation in your body, a sound. And you stabilize your attention for a while with that. With the in-breath sliding into the body and with the out-breath, there could be a possibility of some release in your belly, in your shoulders. The past is recognized as only existing in thoughts, and the future is recognized as only existing in thoughts. So gravitating to present moment awareness. And appreciating that we make this gesture together. We're breathing together. And welcoming as best as you can. Welcoming yourself. And welcoming with that the others. Welcoming the human experience. Witnessing the human experience together. Then again, as a reminder, whatever you experience is your mind. Whatever you experience is an appearance within consciousness, within awareness, just like a dream. And then returning, resting. And softening. And into the space of our shared awareness, into our temple here, we invite the presence of the Buddha, the Dalai Lama, other mentors, other symbols, Buddhist or non-Buddhist, male and female, Tara, and you allow yourself to relax into that experience of being held, of being safe, of being loved. You hear their voices. You see their eyes. And while we are doing this, we stay aware that by inviting these symbols, that they are reflections of the Tara within, of the Guru within, of the Buddha within. And your whole body, every cell of your body is bathing. You don't need to do anything. Allow yourself to receive the sense of being safe. Everything is allowed. Nothing is excluded. Relaxing the grasping and unhooking from thoughts. You gravitate to a thought-free space. And then you rest. Resting. No more further to go. Nothing to do. Nothing to think about. If there's thoughts like, I don't know how to do it, am I doing it right? Or I think I'm doing it right. So all of that is recognized as thoughts. And thoughts are drawings on water. As soon as they appear, they disappear in the same moment. And that is a thought. And that's a thought also. Mental images in a dialogue, judgments. It's a thought. In the presence of the Dalai Lama or other mentors, they introduce an important quality here, and that is a tender attention. Or sometimes I call it the loving gaze. So, and then we move into the self-inquiry. It's the content of our experience, that what we are aware of, the appearances, Sem in the Tibetan language, the clouds, the waves, the images in the mirror, the script on a white page. And then the self-inquiry question is, what is experiencing this? What is aware? And then you pause for a split of a second. And maybe something opens up. You can't put your words on it. You can't grasp it. And something opens up. And trust your intuition. Trust your heart. What is experiencing this? What is experiencing this is being described as cognizant, empty, and in the nature of love. But let go of the words. Open with your whole body, with your whole being. What is experiencing this? What is aware? And if your attention crumbles, meaning you get caught by a thought, by a sensation, maybe there's a feeling of fear, maybe an experience of shrinking, or maybe there's an experience of relief. But then you again make the backward step. What is aware? What is experiencing this? And then you rest. You rest as that which is looking. So that which is looking is not in another place than that what you're looking at, but it's also not exactly the same. Like the mirror is exactly where the reflection on the mirror is, but it's not exactly the same. It's neither the same nor it is different. And then you rest. So whatever you can describe as an experience, that is an object of awareness. But what is aware? The sense of the body, the sense of the eye, thoughts, feelings, all these are objects of awareness. Appearances, dreamlike. But there is also something else. Something which is too simple, too close to be recognized. Something where you feel most deeply yourself. Something which is prior to any experience, like the mirrors prior to the images appearing. The sky is prior to the clouds appearing in it. Spacious, untroubled, in peace, boundaryless and centerless, timeless, transpersonal. What is aware? What is experiencing this? And resting. And then sliding out. You'll bring your awareness to your body. And then you take your time, if you have your eyes closed, to open your eyes. Integrating the visual experience into this kind of meditative awareness. So also the visual experience is like a dream. It is an appearance within awareness, within consciousness. And in this moment, the contraction might be obvious, this moment of contraction, contracting bad as being a body. Yesterday I already said it's really helpful to start this with sounds, listening to music, listening to a guided meditation, and then just bringing this question into the experience. Where is the sound? Inside, outside? The experience of hearing, where is that? And you can't say where it is. So you pause. But then start to experiment with looking. The sound is happening in the same undefinable, unfindable spaciousness as what you see. So as Ken MacLeod says in his commentary, it might be difficult first. That first can be many years. Yeah. And it was also in my case, it was like that. I couldn't make sense of it. But I really encourage you not to give up on that kind of pointing out satsang, non-dual teachings, and just listening around, feel around, because there must be someone or some word, some metaphor which really is like fitting you. And in the meantime, we do whatever we do in terms of healing, in terms of growing up, traditionally called accumulating merit and purification, so devotion, some intellectual understanding of the teachings of emptiness, so all of that. So we continue to do that. And in the same time, you expose yourself to this kind of meditations, which initially, when you hear something like this for the first time, it's quite frustrating. It's frustrating for the conceptual mind, of course, because it's beyond the conceptual mind. But you continue, not giving up. So then I just want to share with you another quote from Ken MacLeod at the end of his commentary on stanza 22. He says, when you are able to rest in clear, empty awareness. So yesterday I said you can describe this process of awakening in different ways. You know, there's different maps in the different spirit traditions, and even in the Tibetan tradition, there's different maps of that. But one is like to have a first glimpse. Yeah? A first glimpse. The second then is what he says here, when you are able to rest in clear, empty awareness, when you are able to rest as that. So your sense of identity starts to shift. So when you say I, or I am, it doesn't land in the conceptual mind. It doesn't land in words. It doesn't land in sensations in your body. It doesn't land in this body. It lands in mind itself. So when you're able to rest there, and you also mentioned stability of attention here is important. That's why in the Tibetan tradition, there's so much emphasis on Shamatha practice. Actually, in the kind of Golok Mahamudra, before you actually get this kind of teachings I'm trying to share with you right now, before you get that, you're supposed to be quite stable in your capacity to pay attention to that which is important to you, which in the 9 stages of Shamatha would be at least stage 4 and beyond. So when you're able to rest there, then he said, you can start learning how to live there. You can start learning how to live there. Where do we usually live? We live in our agendas, in our planning. We live in the conditioning. We live in the patterns, which are connected with our psychological history, which are connected with our karmic history. That's where we live. And our psychological history, our karmic history, creates perceptual filters. And often we are not responding to a situation we are in, we are reacting to it based on how we reacted before. That's karma, right? Karma is describing this process that we are responding to certain situations or through our perception of a certain situation based on how we acted before. And with that, we create more karma. So when you are able to rest in clear, empty awareness, you can start learning how to live there. Begin with simple movements. There's a beautiful practice, it's called authentic movements or authentic dancing, which is very different than any kind of yoga or something where you go through patterns of movement. So it is resting in the present moment and allow movement to arise from a strange place, which you don't know, which is maybe a bit scary even. Because usually when we move, we are moving from the reactive self with an agenda, with trying to impress people, or because that's how we move, or something like that. But there's a different way, there's a different place from where movement can come. Maybe you have had experience like that in dancing, for example. But also it's maybe a stupid example, but maybe you had an experience of going into a bookshop and you had an idea of what to buy, but something else happened. So that would be like a simple example of moving in the world, not reacting to the world, but responding to the world from an intuition, from your guts. Begin with simple movements, then simple repetitive tasks. Gradually include more sensation and work up to moving through your day. So work up to moving through your day. If you would be able to do that, other people would call you Buddha, awakened. So it's maybe initially, it could be even scary to relax into the possibility that you can do your office work without thinking, without fear, without agenda. Well, that's one of the fearful projections people have. if I let go of that fearful contraction in my soul, how I'm getting up in the morning, will I still be able to answer emails? Yes, you are. It's just a process of slowly listening more to your heart, to your inner wisdom, to the inner guru, than to the radio station of the narrative self, which its main fake news is. It's all about me. It's all about me. What do I get out of here for me? So there is actually that possibility, and we actually know that. So initially, maybe without making it a practice, it could be a curiosity to recognize these moments. When you, for example, in a conversation with someone, maybe someone who is in distress, and you approach that situation without agenda, just a tender attention, a tender awareness to the whole situation, and you are not under pressure, that somehow in that situation, either from you or from the other person, something arises, a word, a gesture, which is just the perfect healing thing, the most beneficial thing which can happen in that moment. And you surprise yourself. There will be lapses, he says, of course, but that's why it is called practice. Yeah, so is there any question, comment, something you would like to share? So there is someone.
Yeah, Stephan, I just really appreciate the meditation and the commentary that went with it. And also, it just helped me be more aware of the contraction and expansion of myself, even moment to moment. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. So there's something in the chat. Yeah, that's a question which has been coming up in all these traditions. So the question is, there something, do things exist only dependent on observer or not? And there's no different answers to that. I think this is one of the open-ended questions which whole philosophical traditions have been developed upon. It seems what quantum mechanics says to that is that there is nothing independent from an observer. Yeah? So that the observer and that which is happening, they're happening in the same moment, they're happening in the same space. And that's also what many Buddhist schools say. That there is no, that there's nothing there, out there, findable, which is independent from awareness, independent from consciousness. It doesn't need to be your consciousness. And of course, then we could also go into the discussion, is the streams of consciousness, which are manifest now through you, is that separate from the consciousness which is looking through this eyes? So what do you think? What do you feel? Yeah. So is the consciousness which is looking through this eyes, being aware, is that something, can you find a boundary between the consciousness which is now looking through the other people's eyes? Or when we turn around, like kind of, we turn the beam of attention around to itself, to consciousness itself, are we actually looking into the same place or into the same mystery? I would say yes. I mean, if I would need to choose, yeah, if someone would ask me, like, you have to say yes or no. The Buddha said neither nor, yeah. So it's neither separate nor it's the same. But he got away with that. So again, to say it's neither the same nor it's different creates that gap. That pause. We're talking about a mystery there, which is beyond same and different. But if I would need to say yes or no, I would say yes. But this is just my attempt to put a description what happens for me when I shift back into awareness itself. I feel so close to everyone. Yeah, so it's a koan, actually, this question. And I try to ask different teachers, different lamas, and different lineages about this. And they say different things. So I kind of relaxed that question. In the experience itself, that question dissolves, not because you find an answer, but because it doesn't make sense, that question. The answer to that question is the experience of non-duality. You can become that question. You become the answer. You can become the answer, but that doesn't mean that you can answer that question in a satisfying way. But what you can do, and that what happens is that then out of that experience, philosophies arose. Kate, do you want to say something? You have your hands up.
Hello, Stephan. I'm wondering if it can be both, really. was telling everyone this morning that I was counting insects and invertebrates in rivers, and I was hearing about a particular organism which it's just one single cell, okay, these single cell organisms. And when the food source runs out or there's some other kind of pressure, these single-celled organisms coalesce into another being. It's like a slug, you know, a big slug in the garden, and they move to a place of where there's new food or where there is safety, where they then become single-celled organisms again. And to me, that sounds like universal consciousness to me. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful.
We can tap into something much greater than our single cells. But we can also, I don't know what the word is, bifurcate, split off, and maybe spend a lot of time split off. But we can also become a much greater organism ourselves. And there's a lot of, you were talking about quantum mechanics. I mean, there's a lot to suggest that that is in fact the case. You know, we can be both a particle and a wave at the same time, if you like. You know, why not? Why not?
Yeah. So we can. So is light a particle or a wave? It depends. It depends on where, on what. It depends on the observer. Is light a particle or a wave? Neither nor. Or both. You gave a good metaphor or story how it is both. The Buddha in the Heart Sutra prefers to say it's neither nor.
Neither nor. Neither nor.
It's neither. It's neither one organism nor it's single organism. Yeah, but of course we are not denying that there is a part of our experience which is individual. So here I like the image of the waves and the ocean. So the wave, each wave has a kind of unique expression. So in that way it's individual, but it's also the ocean. Yes, Pat, you want to say something?
Yes, yes, thank you. So I was very sort of resistant today, felt very resistant, felt very kind of melancholy and kind of off kilter. And I thought, fine, that's fine. And then during the meditation, I just felt immense sort of grief and sorrow and just drenched with tears. But I felt as though, so I guess my question is, I can't quite discern whether, you know, it was like your students who have panic attacks when they do this. You know, was I having a kind of pre-linguistic, you know, decompensation or something. But it also I felt like I was with the meditation at the same time. I did feel like I was there, and I think my, my thinking about it was, is this compassion? Is this, kind of, world historical grief? Is it sorrow for everybody? But or both. So I guess that's my question. And
what is yeah, I'm honored that you asked me that question. But, and I don't know, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. Pat, did it still triggered some curiosity in you, the question, what is aware of what you just described?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it did, yeah. So I was kind of in that, I was inside of that question.
Yeah.
And I guess I felt as though whatever it was that was aware was sorrowful, was indeed mournful, or or on some, or I don't know, sorrow adjacent or compassion adjacent in some way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm thinking about I think it's in verse 20, the verse around anger, where Ken MacLeod suggests three different kinds of practices when there is a content in our experience as you describe it. And the first practice he calls dissolving, which is the practice of loving attention. A tender attentiveness. And sometimes that would be an appropriate direction to go in experiences like that. And so that sadness or that grief, and it's always mixed. It's personal, but it's also the collective. But what that, of course, needs is the loving gaze. And how can we, in our practice, connect with that? Calling our mentor, while somehow calling to that innate tenderness, and staying with our experience without wanting to change it, without trying to manipulate it, just tender attention. The second practice he suggests is, he calls it employing, which he connects with the practice of Tonglen. So that would be a moment of breathing it in and tender attention, and then breathing out what is needed. And then the third practice he calls transforming, which is the practice we have been exploring here now. So yeah, just saying that the practice we have done, we played with today might not be always accessible at that moment, or might not be the most appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful. And I also felt, I'm raised Catholic, so I also had a sense of, Jesus was there and, the whole gang.
That's always good. Yeah. Yes, Jennifer?
Yes, hi. I had a question about developing shamatha, using awareness. I've always had a resistance to try to focus on the breath because it just seems like work. And so I have a lot more attraction to either trying to focus on the sensations or thoughts or just awareness of awareness. But I'm always like, gosh, am I really developing shamatha? Because there's just so much, right, going on. And especially with awareness of awareness, the object is a lot more subtle. So I'm just wondering if you'd have any suggestions for developing shamatha using awareness practices and how to know if I'm on the right track.
Yeah, so the recommendation in the Tibetan tradition in general is to start with shamatha with an object. And and the breath is not necessarily the most conducive object for everyone. So when you experiment, so what kind of object is joyful, is where you're curious? If you kind of fall in love with the object, or there's a curiosity or a wonderment, so that would keep our attention connected with the object. So it's important not to put a straitjacket on when someone says, so now we develop shamatha with a visualization or with a breath, or that we experiment ourselves. But then based on that, once we have a bit of experience of that and we get to know the beam of attention and how to influence it, the second approach to shamatha practice is shamatha without object, which is a bit what you describe. Settling the mind in the natural state, open awareness. So it's called shamatha without object, but there is an object, and that object is the whole field, including the space within which everything is happening. So that's the object. And then what happens sometimes, initially when we experiment with shamatha without object, is that we notice that we get caught. So we start to discover a difference between resting in open choiceless awareness and being distracted and grasping. So it's difficult to describe, but there's a difference. Like there's a difference sitting by the beach, being completely open, seagulls fly, there's movement, but there's no grasping. Things come to the foreground, if a big bird comes and it's in the foreground, but it also goes, and you rest in that witnessing. how do you know that that you're on the right track is that over a certain period of time, you notice through the practice of shamatha without object that your body and mind in that practice starts to calm down, starts to settle down. Not always, and not always in the same way, but like over a longer period. The image here sometimes being used, and you have heard that before, is when you have a glass of water where there's mud and you stir it, and then you put it down and you don't do anything, which is like shamatha without object. You don't do anything. Then the mud starts to settle. And if it's not settling, then probably that could be a sign to, in the same session, for a while at least, to return to some shamatha practice with object, which is maybe in your case is not the breath, but it could be the sensation in your hands or something you see, or many different really interesting and fascinating objects we can work with. Sound. And then if your mind is a bit settled through a short period of shamatha practice without object, then you kind of, you relax back into open choiceless awareness. Another challenge here is to start to see the difference between kind of spacing out and falling into like a haze and a certain kind of alertness or clarity or awakeness in choiceless open awareness. So choiceless open awareness is not like, so I'm choiceless open, everything is what it is, and I let it be. But there is that alert quality of attention.
Great. Thank you so much. Very helpful.
I don't know. Yeah. It could be interesting at one point to talk a bit more about shamatha practice. I think there's still a hand up. Anne, are you still there? A bit dark, but
yeah, we're both in darkness. We're in our incorporeal form now.
Yeah.
So, question: when we're in non-duality, how do we experience the sensory input of this world? I mean, do we? Because sometimes I experience the world like it is a projection, like my mind's just a big projector. So when we're in a state of non-duality, do we still appreciate the song of the bird, the color of the sky? How does it, what's it like?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nothing disappears. Yeah. In fact, the experience is, it's maybe comparable to the experience of lucid dreaming. So if you wake up in a dream and you realize that it's a dream, it's not that things fade away. Everything becomes more vivid, more alive, because there's less filter, there's less projection, there's less. There's a more direct experience of the sense input. But what is not there is the separation of someone being here looking at something. So there's not that sense of separation. And one way to describe that is to say that the knowing of the appearance and the appearance, they happen in the same place. So the knowing is not coming from here, from the observer. So I know this, but the knowing and the appearance is it doesn't, it's undescribable, but it's like it feels, it's the appearance and the knowing of it is in the same place. So some people would even say the forest knows itself. It is not known from here, but consciousness is in the trees, is in the land, is in so it's things know themselves. Yeah, everything is alive, is conscious. You look at the tree, and you don't feel any separation. Yeah, and I think kind of when I talk like this, probably there's a bit of recognition in all of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time after a month of very intensive yoga when it was snowing, and it was the first time, maybe the last time, I don't know, in my life when I was the snow was me. There was no me,
Yeah.
and as a result, I appreciate the richness of the experience so much more. Yeah. Yeah.
There's an incredible wonderment then by nobody.
My eye was still present, but I can see what you're saying. I can see that you can get to that point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. The experience which I try to describe now doesn't exclude that there's still a sense of a contraction or like an eye, yeah, but that contraction or that egoic process is just recognized as something else which appears in that space and is known by nobody, like the trees. So the appearance of the tree and the appearance of I or the body has not more significance than the appearance of the tree. It's both appearing in consciousness.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I think time is up. So let's take just a few moments to, again, appreciate that we spent this time together. As Lama Zopa sometimes says, the most powerful way to create merit is to reflect on emptiness. That's much more than making offerings to all the Buddhas. And that's what we have done today. And the goodness which we create by being together in this sacred space, we can like just radiate it out. Yeah, so just and that's possible because we are not separate. Yeah? So this meeting is a wave in the shoreless ocean of life, and it's part of everything. So any inspiration, any thought, any silence is shared, and we can, through our intention, direct that loving silence, that loving presence to the Ukraine, to the people we care about, to our teachers, to the center. May all beings be happy. May all beings feel safe. May all beings come home. To this. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your participation and your attentiveness. It's really beautiful.
Thank you so
And
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
yeah, I see you next month, I
Sure.
think, and we will continue then with the text. Let's see what's coming up after this.